Hello, 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 everyone. So, we are talking about surrendering to perfection on today. Surrendering to perfection. So, this week's life lesson, we're talking about surrendering to perfection. And each day, we're going to focus on the different parts of your real life. Okay. So, how perfectionism really shows up and how you love yourself, how perfectionism shows up in how you interact with others, how it shows up in your focus, and then how it shows up in how you manage your emotions and energy. Okay. Because the pressure to really get it right doesn't just exhaust the mind, you guys, it can drain your life. All right. So, it's Gratitude Shift Wednesday. We're talking about surrendering to perfection on all this week. The focus for today is really releasing the pressure and shifting your identity and start to live from this place of grace, not from grind. Listen, you don't have to be polished to be powerful, okay? This lesson really explores how perfectionism slowly turns into identity, not just something to do, you guys, but sometimes you believe you believe it's what you believe about yourself, all right? We are going to expose how the pressure to be polished starts really eroding your sense of enoughness and replace it with this kind of grace, right? This grace based truth. So, on this Gratitude Shift Wednesday, I want to help you rewrite your script that says that perfect or perfection equals value. All right. And really help you to learn how to be thankful for who you are becoming, not for what you are performing. So, today's life lesson, it really hit my soul after I reviewed it and stuff because perfectionism isn't just about getting things right, you guys. It's about feeling like you have to be polished in order to be powerful, okay? And we're going to break that today, all right? I reminded myself and I'm reminding you that, together we are already enough, all right? We talk about self worth, we talk about how self-worth is found in this flawlessness, not in grace. Okay. I mean, we're going to talk about how self-worth is not found in flawlessness, it's found in our grace. And on this Gratitude Shift Wednesday, we're giving thanks, right, for who we are in the middle of our becoming, not just when we have it all together, you guys, not when we have it all together. So let's talk about it. What is one thing that you've been waiting to get perfect before you're giving yourself permission to really enjoy, to really start, and to really celebrate? Is it the rest? Is it launching that next business? Is it getting into another relationship? Is it saying yes to yourself? Or is it allowing your softness to be seen? Listen, perfectionism will tell us you're you'll be enough when, all right? You'll be enough when. But grace says you already have what you need, okay? And you are already enough. So just come as you are, all right? I tell the story about when I first went to my first money mindset coach. And, he asked the question, like, do you feel like you're enough? And I'm like, mm-mm. And I was like in my 30s. And in my mind, it was just so many things that I had equated to enoughness. Like, I need to finish my degree, I have to do this, I have to do that, right? It was so many things that I had on this checklist that in my mind equal to enough, right? And that is how I was programmed, right? I was programmed based off of performance, and living a performance life really kept me in the grind mode. And I had to learn how to step back and know that I'm enough without the degrees. I'm enough without, I don't know, the applause. I'm enough without the boards, right? And that was a transformational shift, but it also was the peace that I was seeking because I was not able to, or I began to start to really look at myself differently. And so that's one of the things that I really try to incorporate in my training, right? Just this idea of your enoughness. And when you can start that, listen, I am enough. And the I am enough. So that's why I'm able to do these things. It really changed the intention of how you do what you do. So here's my soul hook for you today. What if the reason that you're so tired isn't because you're doing too much, but because you're trying to be someone you don't have to be? All right. You're trying to be someone that you don't have to be. And we're going to talk about why we feel the need to be someone we really don't have to be. Okay. Listen, I know that I know the weight of performing worth. All right. I've lived the strong one. I've worked with the strong ones. Right. That role is so heavy. All right. Trying to really earn rest, to be perfect. I create this lesson to really help you release the pressure and remember you are worthy even when you're unfinished because we're always in the process of developing. All right. We're always in the process of growing. We're always in the process of evolving. Right. And if we can just pause and say, I'm enough for what I need today, then it will take a little of this weight away. All right. So here's our disclaimer for today. This session won't tell you to stop caring about excellence. It's not here to do that, but it is here and it will tell you how to stop sacrificing your self-worth to perform for approval. Healing starts when you finish the checklist. All right. When you finish it, listen, I'm done with the checklist. I'm just going to learn how to be me. Okay. I'm going to learn how to be me. And it starts when you break up with that pressure. So, good afternoon. It's Gratitude Shift Wednesday. I want you to take your deep breath, right? It's in the middle of the day. All right. We're in the middle of the day. We started off our morning. Probably a lot has happened this morning. I talked to a lot of people already, and this has been a day. Okay. So let's take our deep breath and just pause for a moment. This is your moment. No pressure, just your presence. All right. Just your presence on today and just breathe in, right? Breathing in this level of self. So like I was saying in the video that I put, so we usually go through the stop it method, right? But I'm going to change this dynamic and really start talking about life, right? Your love of self, and life is an acronym, right? Your love of self, your interactions with others, your focus in your energy and emotion. And the reason why I want to make this shift is because I think it's so important that we start to look at life holistically. So whatever the theme is, like the theme for this week is surrender and perfectionism. So today we're going to talk about the love of self and how that's affected by perfectionism. Tomorrow we're talking about your interactions with others. And then on Friday, we'll talk about your focus, and then the energy emotions. We'll wrap it up on Saturday. All right, because I think life is to be lived, you guys, and you only get one. And I know a lot of us have given up hope that our life could be any different than what it is. But I'm here to tell you that your life is exactly where it needs to be. It's exactly where it needs to be. Okay. So I'm going to try to see if I'm going to keep talking, but I'm trying to see if I'm going to click out and then click back in. Restart. Are you there? You still there? Y'all know that this session must really be the bomb. Ever since I started this Rise series, right? I was having some technical issues, but there wasn't happening like this. And I do know that this Rise series is a powerful series because it's really speaking to the guilt, right? It's speaking to the fears, it's speaking to the perfectionism and the enoughness. And I guess that just transmutation of energy is really causing some technical concerns. So again, I'm back. If you're still there, put a heart in the chat for me. If you're still there, I thank you so much for still being there. So let me pull it up for you. Let me get in the back in the group so that I can see your comments. Thank you for your patience so much. So thank you so much for your patience. All right. So I'm getting back in the group and I had to restart my computer. But for some reason, StreamYard just stays on. And I kind of love that because I don't have to, restart the whole process over. All right. So it's a Gratitude Shift Wednesday. Maybe that's not it. Maybe that's just not it. Maybe it's that. Okay. I'm back. I don't think that I can go into Facebook. So I'm gonna go into Facebook on my phone. All right. So if you have any comments, I'll just look in my phone to get those comments. Um, Again, thank you for being patient with me. It's Gratitude Shift Wednesday. So much to be grateful for on this Gratitude Shift Wednesday. We're talking about life and surrendering to perfectionism on today. All right. And again, like I was saying, really switching up the dynamic. So we're going to talk about love of self, interactions with others, focus, and energy. And on today, we're talking about the love of self. Okay, the love of self. You can come over to my YouTube page at I Am Shaping Solutions if you want to come right into the comments. If not, I understand. All right. So, good morning, Patty Cake. She said disruption is rest for sure. Just disruptive to rest for sure. I'm just going to set my phone right there just so that I can get the rest of the comments. All right. So, let's get into this lesson because we've already taken a lot of time. So, again, present in our bodies, again, just getting our feet on the floor, up our backs, bring some love and some compassion into these 750 trillion cells that's working on our behalf on today. Who is this session for today? This session is for you if you feel like you are only valuable when you're doing something right. Okay. It's for you if you hesitate to rest because it feels like it's unearned and you're constantly apologizing for not having it all together. All right. Here is my powerful quote to you today. Write this down. You don't have to be polished to be powerful. All right. So let's talk about this. Somewhere along the line, we believed, right? We started to believe that our value was tied to our performance. Okay. Either we were taught that, we caught that, somebody told us that, right? And especially growing up in our community, it was a lot of that type of rhetoric, right? Like you have to be twice as good as everyone else. You got to do, twice as much work, right? And so it was kind of infused in us, this kind of performative type of behaviors from our parents, from our community, and they just really wanted excellence, right? But there's another way that we can be excellent without performing outside of who God created us to be, right? Performing for other people's edification, for other people's approval, for other people's thoughts and beliefs of us, right? We can turn that inside and really start to be with ourselves in a way that we probably haven't been with ourselves, that we probably have not allowed ourselves to be with ourselves that way before. All right. So again, somewhere along the line, we started believing that our value was tied to our performance, that we have to prove, be perfect and pushed in order to be loved, to be respected, and even to be allowed to rest. But today we're going to rewrite this belief. That is the hope that we can rewrite this. We're going to learn that self-worth is not earned through flawlessness, it's received through grace, and you already have that grace. It is your birthright. All right. So I had a client that said to me, I never feel like I'm ever done enough to take a break. I never feel like I've done enough to take a break. She was managing motherhood, she was married, she was a minister, and she worked and still felt like she wasn't measuring up. Raise your hand if you felt like that. You got the 9 to 5, you are in a relationship, you're wearing all these roles, but you still don't feel like you're doing enough or measuring up. But when we unpacked it, right? So when we unpacked this with this individual, what she really wanted wasn't to do more. It was permission to believe that she was already enough. And somewhere in her, she felt that if I did all of this, then hopefully people will feel like I'm enough. And the truth of the matter is, that's not other people's jobs. That's your job, you guys. All right. So here's our mirror moment. What lie, or your heart check in? What lie have you believed about your worth that perfectionism keeps reinforcing? Okay. That perfectionism keeps reinforcing. All right, so I want you to pause. All right, pause. Now I want you to walk through these 5 truths with me. All right, these 5 truths with me to really bring that lie into light in a loving, helpful way. All right, so number one, all right, perfectionism is a performance, it's not a personality. All right, the voice in your head that says, I just like things to be excellent. I just like things to be in order. I just like things to, flow and go well, may actually be a code for I just don't feel safe unless I perform well. And again, when we're talking about this safety, we're talking about a nervous system safety. Okay. So I don't feel safe when things are not in order. There's a judgment that I hear. Right. There's an uncomfortability that happens inside of me where I stop feeling safe. So I have to go into doers mode and I can't be present in any type of chaos or any type of uncertainty, right? I need to know. And that can be very paralyzing. Okay. So let's be real. Perfectionism is not who you are. It It is what you learn to do to be accepted, to be praised, and to be needed. All right. So it came up as a coping mechanism. So you were never meant to be a walking checklist. You were never meant to do that. You're not here for an audience you're not here to audition for love, and you're not here, all right, and you're not a project to be improved. You're a person to be loved. So today I'm asking you, what part of me, or I want you to ask you, what part of me is still performing for approval instead of being present in my power? Now, being present in your power is a learn a learn place, all right, especially if you have associated power to external titles, external things, right? Then this need to be, or this feeling of powerful, you have trained your mind to think I'm powerful when this happens. So associating presence with power is something that you learn, right? It's something that you develop into. It's something that you start to really shift your belief into. So number two, I want you to know that self-worth doesn't need polish to be powerful. Okay. Your self-worth doesn't need to be polished to be powerful. You don't have to be polished to be purposeful. Okay. You don't have to have it all together to be powerful. And some of the most authentic impacts will come from the moments when you really show up imperfect, but present. And if you really go back and you look over the breakthroughs and the times where you really, you know, probably were at your best, it wasn't in the perfect moments, right? It was in those imperfect times where, and you were present with that, and that started to shift the trajectory of your life. All right. So let go of the lie that your worth only shines when it's flawless. Okay. Sometimes your rawness, all right, your rawness is your realness. And um I think we really need to get back to that raw part of us, even though that rawness got judged, even though that rawness got probably got punished, right? And we took our rawness and we went and hid it and said, you're not allowed in some spaces. You're not even allowed in my space. And you feel the weight of that. You feel starting to feel the dis-ease, or you starting to feel that disconnect from you and the rawness of who God created you to be. And your realness is what makes you powerful. That rawness in you is what makes you powerful. And guess what? It's kind of what we appreciate about people. Raw people, it can be a little like but it's like, but they being them, so I really got to appreciate that, right? So let's get back to our rawness. All right, number three, grace is not your backup plan, it's your foundation. So you don't lean into grace because you failed. You lean into grace because you're human, right? It's something that's given to you. So God didn't design grace to be a safety net for you when you mess up. He designed grace to be the ground you walk on daily, regardless of where you're at, right? You don't have to crush. You don't have to crush to access grace, or you don't have to crash to access grace. You are allowed to live from it, all right? Even in the middle of your mess, even in the middle of your learning, and even in the middle of your growing, your grace, God's grace is sufficient, all right? So grace isn't what you use after you fall apart. It's what you give yourself permission. It's what you give yourself permission to have, right, in the midst of it all. All right. Or to have access to in the midst of it all. All right. Number four, if you're waiting to feel enough, you'll stay in delay. All right. If you're waiting to feel enough, you'll stay in delay. Listen, perfectionism tells you you'll start when you feel ready. You'll rest when you deserve it, and you'll be confident when you earn it. All right. So it's always the things you want seems to be in this distant place. But here's the truth. Enoughness is not a feeling. All right. Enoughness is not a feeling. It's a fact. Okay. It's a fact. If you keep waiting to feel enough, you'll always find another reason to delay your freedom. So don't wait for confidence. Move with clarity. All right. And don't wait to feel flawless. Move with your faith. And this is why faith is so important, because a lot of us, we say we're faithful, but we really are looking for certainty, right? We're looking for, I want to do this. We're trying to control the situation. And that's not moving in faith. Moving in faith is, I don't know, right? I am hopeful that, right? But I have no idea what's going to happen when I take this move, but I'm going to move because I'm going to be obedient. I'm moving because I love me, right? I'm moving because God has already ordained this space for me. Whatever that faith is, you're moving with the level of uncertainty. And a lot of us, we are controlling, right, our dynamic, which is why we're stuck because we're looking for the right next move versus the next move. Okay. All right. And that is a part of that trained behavior or our nervous system really trying to keep us safe. And then last but not least in this section, worthiness, last but not least in this section, right? Worthiness is your starting point, not your finishing line. Listen, you don't become worthy by hustling. You don't earn love by overachieving. You start from worthiness, right? And you move from there. You were already enough before you were productive, all right? And you were already loved before you were impressive. All right. So today, instead of asking, how do I prove I'm enough? I want you to ask, what could I release if I believed I was already enough? All right. What if you just believed on today and you just pop the switch on, like, listen, I'm already enough. Listen, you don't have to, or you don't need to be more polished. You just need to be more honest. All right. And the truth is, your enoughness, you're enough right now. Okay. You are enough right now. Listen, perfectionism discounts you from the present by really convincing you that you're not enough, or that this is not enough, or that more things need to be done, or I need to try one more time, or maybe I can do it better, or whatever that is keeping you in this hamster wheel from action, right? From the action of being present in the moment with whatever it is, from the action of doing whatever you need to do to have, right, the life that you desire and deserve. Listen, you can't build a life you love while being at war with who you are. All right. You just can't do that. When you're at war with who you are and you're trying to improve and you're trying to manifest and you're trying to do all of this, but there's no space for you in that. All right. You can't build a life that you love. You don't need to earn the right to be at peace. It's already yours to claim. All right. So here's a testimony. I want to say, when I stopped chasing perfectionism, I started to feel powerful. Actually, I started to feel full. It was like I didn't feel empty anymore. It was like this fullness that came about when I just stopped, moving in that way. And I can attest for my clients in this fullness that they feel, even in their imperfection, even in their even in their uncertainty, there's this peace and this fullness that they feel as they move through life. All right. And studies have supported this by showing that perfectionism is linked to anxiety, it's linked to burnout and shame driven self talk. All right. So when you are really behaving in this perfectionist mode, right? That is linked to some of the anxiety that you're feeling, the burnout that you're feeling, and that shame driven self talk that you're hearing as you're moving through life. So if you're tired of being perfect, maybe it's time to be present. All right. If you're tired of being perfect, maybe it's just time to be present. And I know that being present, what is that, right? For people who have not been present with themselves, like, what does that feel like? And it just starts with one moment, taking 30 seconds to just be, right? But when we take 30 seconds to be, now we got to listen, right? Now we got to hear, now we got to feel, we got to sit with ourselves. And I think it's so interesting that we want other people to sit with us, right? We want other people to be there for us, but we can't even take 30 seconds or a minute to really sit and be with ourselves, right? Listen, life doesn't give you what you want, it gives you what you are. And when you can practice loving yourself in a way where you can be with yourself, right, in a car with no music on, in a sitting in a quiet space with, with nothing on, with your eyes closed, just hearing your breath and hearing your voice, right? For 30 seconds to a minute, 5 minutes, right? 20 minutes, that really starts to change your nervous system and it helps it to feel safe with you. And when you start to feel safe with you, then other people can start to feel safe with you. And we'll talk a lot about that tomorrow. Okay, so let's move on to in this section. This is where I used to talk about the STOP it acronym, but today I'm going to talk about love of self. All right, so surrendering to perfectionism. Here's 10 truths I need you to know about perfectionism and your love of self. All right, so let's have a real conversation because here's the truth: perfectionism isn't about excellence. I know that you think it is, but it's not. It's fear really dressed up like it's discipline, all right? And the longer you let fear run your rhythm, the harder it becomes to actually love yourself where you are right now. All right. All right, let me say it again. The longer you let fear run your rhythm, the harder it becomes to actually love yourself where you are. So today I want to talk about your love of self, not from this fluffy, spa day version, but this real, sacred, raw love of self that says, even if I'm unfinished, I'm still worthy. Even if I'm not polished, I'm still powerful. And even on days that I feel messy, guess what? I don't owe perfection to be loved. All right. All right. I can love me because I am love. All right. So let's walk through these 10 truths that perfectionism ties to really hide you and the truth that love will restore. All right. So I'm going to do this like I typically do my social media posts. I'm going to offer you something to stop doing, and then I'm going to give you something that you can start doing. So, number one, stop treating rest like it's a reward, please, and start seeing it like it is a requirement. Listen, you are not a machine. You are not a machine. You are not a machine. Rest is not something that you earn after you've exhausted yourself trying to prove that you're good enough. Rest is how your body and your soul recharges its truth. All right. So when you rest, your body is doing the work that it needs to do. So when you're on, right, you can do that with more ease. All right. But if you're not resting, then your body can't do what it needs to do for you to restore you to. It's just things that your body is doing that you have no way of doing for yourself. All right. That is the gift that your body is offering you, and you have to cut off so that that part can cut on. And I think it's very interesting that we will do it with our phones, right? The phone will tell you, listen, I need to shut down to reprogram, to build back up, right? My computer is communicating to me, hey, you need to shut down. There's some errors happening, right? You need to shut down before you can shut back on, because it's only in the shutdown mode that I can address the things that need to be addressed. All right. And that's what your body does. So if you only let yourself rest after everything is done, you'll never rest. So I want you to ask yourself, when did I learn that exhaustion equals value? And let's start practicing this. Rest is not laziness, it's a form of me loving myself. All right. So I'm going to get this 6 hours. Now, some people have an issue with sleeping 8 full hours, right? So they'll make sleeping 4 hour increments or 3 hour increments, but making sure that those increments of rest that you're resting is true rest. Like if it's dark, I know a lot of people sleep with TV on, right? Like, but that your reticular activation system is going all the time. So when you're sleeping to crime movies and you know 24-hour crime and all of that type of stuff, or sports center, whatever it is that you're sleeping to, your mind is picking that up. So it's not really true rest. You need to learn how to be with yourself in silence, with the mask on or in a dark room, so your body can do what it does, so you can start to feel more restored. All right. Number two, stop measuring your worth by your output. All right. Output is uncontrollable. The only thing you can really, really, really control is the input and your intention. But what happens after you do that, you're not control over. So stop measuring your worth by your output and start valuing your actual existence. Listen, you don't have to do to deserve love. All right. You don't have to achieve to take up space. Sometimes the most revelatory thing that you can say is, I'm enough. even when I'm still becoming. Your existence is valuable, your presence matter, and your worth is not attached to a guess what, a to-do list. All right. So let's unlearn that. All right. So let's unlearn that for ourselves. Number three, stop editing yourself to be more acceptable. All right. Stop editing yourself to be more acceptable and just start showing up in your full color, right? Everything that makes you you. Now, everything that makes you you may be very different than what makes other people them, right? You may be red and they're orange, but if you're trying to be orange, right, you will never really feel what it feels like to be red, right? And guess what? Your intelligence knows that. Your divinity knows that, right? That hey, we wasn't meant to be orange. We could dab on orange a little bit, but we meant to be red, right? Let's figure out what red is. And learning to be red is going to be a learning curve, especially if you've never dance with yourself in that way before. Listen, you don't have to filter your fullness to be loved. You don't have to shrink your truth to be seen. Perfectionism says, be safe, be small, and be likable. But your love of self says, be you, be whole, be real, be raw, right? This version, that version, or the version of you that's bold, that's quirky, that's soft, that's spiritual, that's loud, that's poetic, right? That version of you is worth being in any room when you realize it's worth being in any room. All right. Number four, stop apologizing for softness and start honoring your gentleness as a strength. All right. Stop apologizing for your softness and really start honoring your gentleness as a strength. You do not need to toughen up to be respected. You do not need to hide your tears or sugarcoat your tenderness, right? Your softness is sacred. Male, female alike, your softness is sacred. It doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. So can we start normalizing this? All right. I'm strong. I'm soft. I'm both, right? I'm both. I'm both strong and I am soft, right? And I'm done apologizing for that. So growing up, I was the crybaby, right? I cried about everything. Like, and I was the crybaby that talked while I was crying. So he did this and he did this. So I was a real crybaby. So I got teased for it. You remember that it was like a song. It's like cry baby cry. Whip your eye, put your hands on your hip, let your backbone slip. My auntie and uncle used to rag me with this song, right? Because I cried so much. You know what that taught me? That my emotions wasn't safe, right? So, and then I'm already an Aquarius. So having that experience and being an Aquarius, guess what all those emotions went to? I can't even say they went in the back corner and closet somewhere. I think I buried them out in the backyard, right? Deep, 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 deep down, right? Because there was no place for this emotional Sheila, right? So I had to, in some way, build this wall, be the strong one, like, don't let them see you cry. But mind you, I'm a crybaby. I am very emotional. And so I had to learn in my 30s. Like, so just imagine 10 years old getting that stripped away from you. About 10, I was done being kind of like the crybaby. I would probably whine or like, I don't know, be bratish when I was about 12 or 13. But the tears, it's like, I don't know. I mean, I would have breakups and the guys would just look at me like, you ain't even gonna cry. I'm sorry. Like I just don't really have the tears to give. Now, you give me a good rom-com movie though, you know, I'm a cry. Like I'll cry with movies, but anything else, it wasn't safe for me to cry. And but when I got 30, right, and I started sitting with myself and really just allowing myself to feel, right, to be emotional, I realized, oh, Sheila, you are very emotional. Like that affected you. I started to feel it in my body. I started to feel my heart like, oh, I feel that, right? I started to feel it in my gut, right? I started to feel my body jerk, right? And that relationship building back with myself, guess what? At first, I used to point it at other people, but then I learned to just say, hey, I'm safe. You know what I mean? Like they can have their opinions and their thoughts, but that's not going to make me not be with my emotions again. So I'm soft. I hired a feminine coach, right? Really learned how to sit in my feminine and just be me, right? And that's a process that's ever growing and evolving. But I stopped apologizing for my softness and really start honoring my gentleness is my strength. All right. My gentleness is my strength. And I offer that to you on today. All right. Number 5, stop thinking perfectionism equals readiness. All right. And start moving in faith, not flawlessness. All right. If you're waiting until you feel perfect to really show up and speak out or start, you'll still be waiting the same time next year. Perfectionism isn't proof that you're ready. Faith is proof that you're ready. When you can start walking in faith, that is proof that you have matured and grow and you're starting to understand this thing called life. All right. You don't have to feel flawless to move. You just have to feel aligned. All right. All right. Does that make sense? Put a heart in the chat and a 5 in the chat if that made sense. Number 6, stop shrinking when you're unsure. All right. And start showing up even when you feel wobbly. All right. All right. Stop shrinking when you're unsure. Guess what? Nobody knows everything. All right. Nobody knows everything. And I know people sit back and can be so judgmental, as they know everything. And nobody knows everything. So when you're unsure about something, you could say that, in the wobble. Oh, I don't know the answer to that. I can't provide that to you right now. And you could say that with as much confidence as if you knew it, and if you want to know it, then let me go research that, let me pull up my chat, let me go on Google or something like that. But, stop shrinking when you're unsure, right? I know you were taught that you should know and you should know, right? And a lot of us, and I think it's so interesting because a lot of us got punished, right? You did something, got a whooping. And then while you getting the whooping, you realize that, oh, I shouldn't have did that. It wasn't this time of like, do A, B, C, D, right? You got taught to do A, B, C, D. You learned how to do A, B, C, D, right? And then you didn't do it. And so you got punished. A lot of times you didn't even know that I was supposed to do A, B, C, D, right? It was just assumed that you should know. And now that you don't know, I'm going to punish you. And I think we do this to each other in relationships too, right? You meet somebody and then they don't do what you want them to do, but you never communicated to them that was your expectation of them. And now you label them toxic or or red flag, or, you judge them harshly. But how would they know that was your expectation? Y'all have two different life experiences, right? And then we do it to ourselves. And we're talking about the love of self today. We will impose this on ourselves, right? Like, if we don't know something, we'll judge ourselves harshly. And I have to always pause and ask my client, but who taught you? Right? Who taught you that? All right. So you're not supposed to be confident before you begin. All right. Confidence is really built through movement, not overthinking. So even if your voice shakes, even if you're not the expert, show up anyway. Okay. Perfectionism will say, don't try until you're certain, but self-love will whisper to you. All right. You can be courageous and uncertain at the same time because we're living in the end. Okay. We're living in the A and D. All right. Number 7, stop calling yourself lazy when you get tired. Okay. Stop calling yourself lazy when you're tired and start recognizing your need for recovery. All right. Listen, you're not lazy. You're tired. You real tired. Okay. You tired. All right. And being tired doesn't mean you're unworthy. It means that your body is asking for more love, not more hustle. So stop punishing yourself with pressure and start listening to your energy like it matters. Okay. Because it really does. All right. Number 9, stop comparing your healing timeline and really start trusting your rhythm or your personal rhythm. So stop comparing your healing timeline with somebody else's healing timeline. Stop comparing your healing timeline to what you expected your healing timeline to be. I think it's so interesting. We have this thing called a gestational period, right? And if you were pregnant, and I'm saying this to a guy too, even though you can't give birth, and you knew you were 7 months pregnant, right? And you started having contractions It's no way that you would be ready to have that baby because you would know that this baby is premature. It's not at its full 40 weeks, right? And if I have this baby now, then there may be something that happens. Okay. So you're going to do whatever to keep that baby inside of you because you understand that to have a healthy baby, it's going to take 36 to 40 weeks. Okay. Now, it is people who have healthy babies before that, but I'm just giving this for an analogy, right? So, why do we do this to our healing? Right? Your healing has a gestational period. All right. But we're trying to accelerate it. And then when we jump out of it or birth too fast, right? Then we end up handicapping ourselves or we end up, not being fully developed in some areas, right? And then we think healing doesn't work. And it's like, no. So stop comparing your healing timeline and really start trusting your personal rhythm. Listen, your pace is not supposed to match theirs. All right. Your healing is not supposed to look like theirs. All right. Comparison will kill your clarity. So self-trust and so comparison will kill your clarity and self-trust will restore your peace. All right. You are not behind, you are becoming. So stay in the rhythm with your grace, not your guilt. All right. Number 9, stop confusing discipline with self-criticism. All right. So I want you to stop comparing discipline with self-criticism and really start practicing compassion as motivation. We really need to introduce this compassion to ourselves. And I know that sometimes when we're thinking about compassion, we think it's an excuse, right? But it's so much happening in your body that you have no idea. It's so much happening energetically, emotionally. If you're healing the neurons that are firing and wiring your nervous system, your parasympathetic nervous system, right? All of this is having to do and digest and retransform. So when you are when you are doing something and you're being critical or it's not happening how you want it from your lens, from your, I would say, limited mind or limited perspective, right? You don't know everything that's going on. All right. And so sometimes we have to give ourselves compassion. And sometimes it may take 3 or 4 times to do the thing, right? Because you need that information to learn and keep applying. So stop confusing discipline with self-criticism and really start practicing compassion as a motivation. Listen, being hard on yourself doesn't make you grow faster. All right. It just makes you grow bitter. All right. Being hard on yourself, it doesn't make you grow faster. It just makes you grow bitter. All right. So let compassion be your coach and let grace be your motivation. Discipline that lacks love turns into what we call punishment. All right. But discipline that's rooted in compassion, that is where real transformation happens. All right. So we literally have to learn how to be more compassionate. And last but not least, stop performing for peace and start protecting your peace by being real with yourself. All right. Performance might make you feel like you're in control, but it also keeps you disconnected. Real peace can exist where you're pretending to be someone or something that you're not. All right. You don't owe the world your perfection, but you do owe you your presence. So I want you to ask yourself today, where am I performing? Why am I performing when I can be present? All right. And this is the last wrap up. You don't need to be polished to be powerful. You don't need to be perfect to be at peace. And you don't need to be impressive to be enough. You need truth. You need your presence and you need permission to love yourself just as you are. And that's why self-love. And that is what self-love really is. All right. And that is what self-love really is. Put in her in the chat if you like that section as we go into our biblical wisdom on today. All right. So Romans 12:2, do not conform to the patterns of the world, but be ye transformed for the renewing of your mind. Listen, the patterns of the world tell you to perform for your worth, to stay polished, to stay productive, and to be pleasing at the cost of what? Of your peace. But God invites you into something deeper. A life that's transformed, not performed, a life that is received, not earned, and a mind that let me re-say that. A life that is transformed, not performed, a love that is received, not earned, and a mind that is renewed, not rehearsed in shame. This isn't about becoming something new, you guys. It is about returning to the truth that always been inside of you, that has always been inside of you. Listen, the same spirit that renewed your mind lives in you. All right. So this verse isn't about trying harder. It's about aligning with the God in you. All right. The God in you who already sees that you are enough. So when you renew your mind, you are aligning with the divine nature within. All right. You stop living from a script of guilt, and you really start loving, okay, and living from this spiritual identity. All right, so let's tie that in with the the neuroscience. Your brain is wired to protect you with patterns, all right, even unhealthy ones. And this is just the truth. All right, so if you've practiced perfectionism long enough, your brain defaults to pressure. But through neuroplasticity, guess what? You can literally rewire your identity by renewing your thoughts with grace based truth. All right. When you start to shift from self criticism to self compassion, you actually activate the prefrontal cortex, and that part of your brain, it governs your emotional regulation, your clarity, and your resilience. So the more you rehearse your truth, the more your brain begins to believe that. All right. So do not be conformed by the patterns of the world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. And you can be transformed by the thing of neuroplasticity when you start to shift from self criticism to self compassion. All right. And then your promise verse, see, I'm doing a new thing. Now it has sprung up. Do you not perceive it? Listen, God isn't just doing a new thing around you. God is doing a new thing within you, a new way of seeing yourself, a new way of treating yourself, and a new way of trusting who he created you to be. But if you're still rehearsing, guess what? Old perfection strips, you will miss the grace that is trying to break through. All right. You can't receive a new thing if you're still performing from the old one. I love this verse, and I bring this verse up a lot of times because I want you to hear this verse. See, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? Right? So the Spirit of God in you is not asking for a polished version of you. It's just asking for your presence, right? And that presence is there to really see this new thing that is happening in your life. All right. You don't need to keep editing your worth. You just need to perceive that God's grace is already active inside of you. So this verse really reminds you that this new thing isn't about becoming flawless. It's not about becoming flawless. It's about becoming free. All right. Now, the neuroscience to support this is that the brain filters out, and you've heard me say this before, the brain will filter reality based on what it expects. That is called attention bias. All right. So if your brain is trained to expect criticism, to accept shame, to accept, to expect criticism, to expect shame, to expect not enoughness, to expect this thing to go wrong, it will literally filter out grace. All right. But when you start expecting truth, when you start expecting peace, when you start expecting worthiness, all right, guess what? You begin to perceive the new thing that God is already doing and has been doing. You cannot embody what you won't expect, and you cannot expect what you haven't rehearsed. Listen, life is about expectation. And I just want you to step back and really ask yourself, what were you expecting? In that last situation that you got into, what were you expecting? When you asked for that raise, what did you expect your boss to say? When you went to your husband and had that conversation, what did you expect to happen? When you went to your children to really talk to them about what they need to do, what did you expect from them? Right? When you work with yourself, what are you expecting? Because guess what? Life is full of expectations, and your reticular activation system is looking for the thing that you expect. All right, and only paying attention to it. And it doesn't mean that the other thing that you desire is not there, right? I want the raise, right? But I'm expecting my boss to say no. Now, the boss could have said, Um, so we're having some budget issues right now. I do see that the work that you're doing is good, and I just want you to keep working and come back to me in 3 months and we can see what we can do. But because you probably was expecting a boss to say no, guess what you heard? No. You didn't hear an opportunity that would be there in 3 months. You didn't hear, their budget issues. You didn't hear any of that. What you synthesized that as being was, my boss never want to help me or support me, because that is your expectation. All right. And so I want you to really ask yourself, oh, somebody knocked on my door, y'all, and it scared the bejesus out of me. All right. I want you to ask yourself, what are you expecting? All right. And then what would you do, or what would your day feel like if you saw yourself the way that God already does, worthy, unfinished, and still enough? All right. So let's put this into practice. Hold on. All right, so let's put this into practice. I want you to write down one perfection script or one perfection. I want you to write down one perfection based lie that you believe. And then I want you to replace that with grace based truth. And then I want you to say out loud every time that old narrative shows up. I want you to say it out loud every time that narrative shows up. And then here's your journal prompt. Where have I tied my worth to perfection instead of my presence? And your affirmation for today: I don't have to be polished to be powerful. I am enough today. And then your intention: today I release the pressure and receive peace. And then your bonus for today: take one imperfect action to really celebrate it without apology. All right. If you're letting pressure run your life, I do want you to know that we do have some seats in Project Life, and you can join that project at sheilalittle.com/life. If you haven't already, make sure you join the YouTube channel and invite a friend to join Elevating Life. All right. And your call, your challenge, and your charge today: listen, I'm asking, what role has perfection been playing in your life? Number two, I'm challenging you to choose one way to really interrupt that pressure today. And then I'm going to charge you with this: you don't have to get it right to move forward. You just need to move. All right. So, in closing, you are not a project. You are a person. You are not behind. You are becoming. All right. Tomorrow's lesson is going to be about approval isn't your piece. When connection becomes a performance. All right. When connection becomes a performance, we're talking about interactions with others tomorrow. All right. How perfectionism affects how we relate to others. So let's break this people pleasing cycle that we have. So tune in for that. And I want you to remember this: if you can shape it in your mind, you can have it in your life. And here's your takeaway: you don't need to be polished to be powerful. You just need permission to be present. I love you. I love you. I love you. And I will see you tomorrow for that life lesson. And I thank you guys for being here and staying with me through all of the technical difficulties. You guys have a great rest of your Gratitude Shift Wednesday. And I will see you tomorrow for that life lesson. Till later.